Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
As always, guys, check in daily, all three channels, Evolutionary, EEARTS, and also Heart's Home. Make sure you have the little bell clicked and subscribed. Come join us over at Heart's Home. We have 1.36 thousand subscribers over there. And over here on EEARTS, 19.1 thousand. They tell us, again. And at Evolutionary, they've stuck us at 66.6. Honestly, we've been at 66.6, 66.5 since 2019 when we said, there's some funny laws that went into effect. You might want to look at it. And then it just stayed where it was. It skyrocketed from coming into existence in 2017 to 66,000 plus, well on its way to over 100,000, and then just they put the brakes on because this world is all illusion. It's all illusion. But while we're here, we do want to thank those that are supporting us in this illusion and this fighting against the illusion over on Patreon and Ko-Fi. Couldn't do it without you guys. I want to expand a little bit on something I touched on. I really feel the need to go over, because boy, man, when we go over some things, like the one video we did that was like 55 minutes the other day, for me, it's stuff I never grow tired about talking about, or Cindy. I mean, we love this stuff. And it felt like review. We felt like, I know most of you guys have heard us speak of all these things. But then again, when you put it all together in one video and you run through it, it just, this was one right here, must know knowledge about surviving the apocalypse and ascending through these times. It's so important to keep sharing these little bits of things that we've learned along the way and reiterating it, because again, some people are just coming in for the first time. And we'll still get people that will say, like I saw over on Bitchute, somebody was saying, you don't understand all your concepts about the earth being round. It's coming from NASA, and no, it's not coming from NASA. We've basically been out there. We've remote viewed, and we've actually been on the ships. Many people have been on ships, and they won't talk about it with their alien abduction experiences. No, the earth is it's not a perfect round ball, but it is circular. And we've seen it from above, and it's not hard to develop the ability to remote view, and remote viewing is a real thing. I mean, shoot, the governments have spent millions and millions, if not more, on being able to remote view each other. It's a science, it's an art, and again, in the future, it's something that we're all going to be able to do. So, no, the earth is not flat in this matrix, guys. In this matrix. In reality, though, it is all an illusion of sorts. It's an agreed upon illusion for an experience in which we will gain some sort of gnosis. And again, gnosis is key because it's experiential. That doesn't mean we're Gnostic, but we are basically, because we wouldn't label ourselves anything, even though we go back to looking at the Vedic worldview a lot, simply because when we've talked to our guides and the Galactic Federation, and said, what would you say is the system that's most accurate on Earth? This is one of the ones. This is about as accurate as we're going to get embodied. And yet it's still not really perfectly accurate. And again, it depends on what lens you're looking through too, because we all have unique lenses.
Mm-hmm. I know. And I just love looking at these things, and Mike is going to explain it a little bit more, but I'm always looking for that stamp of illumination, that stamp of understanding, that stamp of those beings who keep the truth from us. And just, looking at this, I see the realm of 33 million demigods and demons. That number, 33, it sure comes up quite a lot. It must have some great significance to some beings who do know the truth about all things.
the reality is, yes, we live in a matrix, and we live in a matrix within a matrix. There's the dark matrix within the matrix of light, you could say, and we might want to call it the matrix of light, but it's really a matrix of every color possible. Because again, why do people suffer? Well, there's free will. There's free will, and what we experience here is a temporary situation in order to grow. My own mother, her last year was fairly miserable. I loved and adored her as most of us love and adore our moms, and she was a great soul, is a great soul. Really, this is a woman, and my dad. I mean, I really did bless myself in choosing my parents, because they're just nice people. They were just nice people. I didn't know what it was like to see your parents even get in an argument. They didn't argue. I mean, they really didn't. I think twice in my life, when they were not in agreement, my dad said, that was as bad as it got. That's as bad as it got in my household growing up. Yeah, we lived paycheck to paycheck. We never owned anything. But man, I was blessed. I was so blessed. I mean, they're two peaceful people with hearts of gold. I wanted to share with you guys the story about a person that was a family member that was traumatized. And so, that heart of gold that lies there was tarnished. And it was tarnished by the system. And, and I wanted to also share with you guys from the perspective of somebody that's incredibly psychically gifted. And I'm not talking about me, I'm talking about the beautiful lady to my right that I adore, love, and cherish. And I think a lot of you guys too do. I'll just say that. I see the comments out there. She has brought about really my biggest desire in life, which I have Rahu with Jupiter. And so in my makeup, it's all about, I have to know, but not necessarily know left brain know. I have to know everything. And as a kid, I used to say, I'm not afraid of dying because I know I'm not the body. I've already had an out-of-body experience at 5 years old. I know I'm not the body. I know that when I shed the body, I go on. I have absolutely no doubts about that because I've experienced it. That's what the gnosis part is, direct experience. But what I want to know is I want to know all the secrets. And so how did the guides bless me? They gave me a partner that could help me uncover all the secrets because she can see them directly. And when I would say things like, well, at night when I'm meditating in bed and I'm pour breathing, doing my qigong, drawing into life force, I see these rolling waves of light. Now, everything that I've always experienced, I've been able to really get answers from most of it. And that's from Cindy's gifts, being able to see clearly that which to me, I know there's something going on, but I can't always see it clearly. Now, there's some things that I see clearer than her, like she can't see WAR, and I can see that crystal clear. And again, it's part of our soul's makeup. And it's also, I think, part of why we are such a good team together because, where she can't go, I can, and vice versa. And together, we're able to do greater good. So I'm going to share with you the story of one particular soul who was part of my family and went through hell and literally did leave this world early and did take decades to get out of that hellish mindset that was due to trauma. When we look at this diagram, Patala, you see hellish planets, and these are different realms. Well, you are here, right in the middle, guys. We're right in the middle. Yeah, and again, then we see above, different realms, demigods and demons. What are they doing on the higher realms? Oh, how could demonic things be on the higher realms? To a degree. And then as you see, you keep going higher and higher and higher. Here we see Ma Durga, Lord Shiva way off. And again, Shiva is, in one definition of Shiva, it's that which is not. So that's a way of saying the unmanifest potential. And the mother is the manifest, is that which comes into being and birth. In so many ways, all the answers are right in front of us. They've always been right in front of us this whole time. And you can see it's one universe among unlimited material universes. Yes, we're not the only universe, but uni means one. Yeah, but again, our entire universe is just one little cell. One tiny little cell. And, they allude to this. When we look to the Vedas, you will see that one of the most talked about deities there, well, Agni, fire, is, but when we look to the Vedic way of doing things, we see Shiva, Brahma, we see Vishnu, who we get is the actual creator of this realm, of this. You could view him as the programmer of the matrix that we're in, so to speak. And yet you do see the emphasis is on some of the quote-unquote gods that are more imminent, like Indra, storm god. Indra can be equated to so many different beings in so many different ways and so many different traditions, because gosh, there's storm gods everywhere. El, right, is Ra, El, Isis, Ra, mother god, the sun. El, it was the storm god, Canaanite storm god as well. And we think of Thor, in some ways, Thor's almost like a storm god too, in some ways. But these are all individuals too. But Indra, it makes reference to the Indra that we talk about in the Vedas as being the Indra of this age in this universe. It's like a position. It's not really, and in reality, it's the same thing with the other deities as well. They're serving a position. And so there's many different realms. There's countless different realms. There are unlimited universes out there. And in fact, we are all creator gods in training. This is part of the biggest thing to get across. This is how we do our training. We're creator gods in training. We got to experience a wide variety of things.
And one reason I really love to try to study Vedic astrology and practice, and that's exactly what I do. I practice. I don't consider myself any kind of a professional astrologer, because this is such a deep science. It's something that is never ending. But the reason I love to look into it and learn about it is because of the explanations that it gives. When we're talking about the masculine and the feminine, it's believed in Vedic astrology that all the planets are considered male, and everything that grows on those planets is considered female. Hence, you have the masculine and the feminine, and not exactly as we know it in these 3D bodies. But then you get into things like nakshatras, the star that's rising in the east when you were born, or the star next to a certain planet. And these are the beings that live in these areas of the nakshatra. And you can look at someone's chart as long as they have the time of birth. As long as the time of birth is there, that is so important. But you can see where they're from, which star system are they from, thus knowing their higher self. And you can even look into their lower self. So it's all very, very fascinating. And I love to have a deeper understanding of things. Yes, I do have an ability to see dimensionally, but I also like to learn things on top of seeing, because I like to understand what I'm seeing dimensionally. That can be very frustrating. I can look at something, see these things, but I don't have sometimes I need definitions behind it, and I like that, and that's what astrology has done for me.
Absolutely. And again, might not view herself as a professional astrologer, but there's not many professional astrologers that can, take a peek and see what your mother is exactly at this point in time, even if she passed 20, 30 years ago. I mean, this is part of, I mean, her ability is truly staggering, and we are thankful that it's kept on the down low, because otherwise, we would be in even more danger than we currently are with the knowledge that we share with you guys. One of the things, again, that many people will ponder over, what happens when we die? Well, again, the key is to be in a certain frequency. So the thing that has twisted this world so much is the mentality, and this is given to us by the controllers, the mindset that, well, you got to have the right dogma. No, dogma is meaningless. Absolutely meaningless. It's all about your frequency. How do you raise your frequency? Again, it's through the heart, truly. That's the bridge. The heart is the bridge between the upper and the lower chakras. If we look at it, and that's what Christ consciousness is all about, if we want to put that into perspective. And this is turning into something, I'm sorry guys, I can't shut up when we start talking about this stuff. I guess that says something, about it. If we just, look at this, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, okay, anahata, it's the heart chakra. It's your bridge between the upper and the lower. This is the bridge. And so when you get the I am the way, the truth, and the light, you can't get up into here without crossing through the heart. That's what it's meant by. It's not about, believing in a blood sacrifice. It's not about calling on any one particular name. No, the only way you could get to the higher realms is through love. Period. That's it. That's the big realization. It's all about love. Now, what's it blocked by? Grief. And you could put these other ones in below it. Fear, guilt, shame, etc. Yeah, if you could shut off the ladder, this is the ladder. This is Jacob's ladder of consciousness. If you could shut off any of the rungs, you can't go higher. Absolutely. The throat chakra dealing with truth, blocked by lies. So we're given a lot of lies all day long. That's all they ever give us is lies. The history's full of lies. The science is full of lies. The theology is full of lies.
Mm-hmm. And, can I just point out a couple of things with the heart chakra and the throat chakra, and how it really, truly is not our fault when we're dealing with these blocks. We look at grief, and how many of us have had grief because of something that is set up in the system, something that has happened to ourselves or a loved one while they were in the system. This creates grief, can shut off that heart chakra. And then look at the lies. I mean, the lies are spewed out from the media like nobody's business. And when you don't really know the truth, how are you supposed to rise up? So they take an enormous amount of effort to keep us locked in these lower chakras. And until you can break free and unlearn or dismiss everything that you have learned, you're not going to be able to climb up. And believe me, they count on that. And that's why they have schools of indoctrination. And that's why they have all these policies, procedures. That's why they have all this media. That's why they have their own, religious basis. It's all to keep these chakras locked down and keep you in place.
Absolutely. So when somebody's drawn by the message of Yeshua, Jesus, and it's because it's all about love and forgiveness and compassion, but then the dogma pulls in things that, well, you better do this or that because otherwise you're going to burn in hell. That's going and attacking your root chakra, causing this basic level of fear. And then they also say, well, you deserve to burn in hell because you were born. Original sin. It's not what you did. It's what Adam did. And there's that guilt, down level 2, and the shame. You're naked. So Adam and Eve covered up. There you go. I mean, This is gaslighting. This is, it's an abusive narcissistic relationship, if you want to put all the modern day terminology on it. Hello, wake up to the BS. This world is full of BS, and it's all about entrapping your soul. That's the bottom line, because they understand. We go on. Oh, wait a minute. They're going to get away from us. They're going to leave the body. They're in a loving state. They're going to go up where we can't go. Well, when they leave the body, let's have them be in a state of fear, guilt, shame, or grief, and they won't be able to rise up. This is the bigger picture. This is the bigger picture. Because there's all these realms all around us. And as I've shared before with my mom, we got from the guides a nice clear answer. Said, where's my mom on the astral realm if we were going to put it in a spot? 4.45. Thanks, guys. That was really pretty detailed there. If we're talking about 4D, she was right in the middle of 4D, basically. Well, now she's ascended up to 5th density, and now she's taken the role of being a guardian angel, per se. Because, again, we're not always human. That's not our true nature. Our true nature is not human. No, you're misunderstanding it. We're having a temporary human experience. If you think that we're always human, no. Now, one time you might have been an apple like Cindy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in your whole purpose and being an apple was to support somebody else. We start out with a sense of oneness. We will end up at some point in time with a sense of oneness. We lose the sense of oneness along the path, kind of purposefully, because that gets us greater gnosis about ourselves. So when we leave the body, so much of it is all about what is the emotional state of being. Have you guys seen this before? We've shown this before. This does feel fairly legit. Cindy nods her head. As you see an accident, and there's what looks to be caught on camera. There's multiple pictures of this. I think this was in Kentucky, by the way, or was it Indiana? I forget. I think it might have been. It was somewhere over in that area. And you see the body, and looking down, there have been innumerable, countless times where people have seen themselves out of body. And as I shared with you, I was one of them. When my brother had died, I was 5 years old and came back from the little funeral. I was all dressed up in, a little funeral tux thing, whatever you want to call it. And I remember just standing there at the kitchen table and staring at the wall. And it was an ugly kitchen table. And I remember all of a sudden I was behind my body and above my body. And I'm looking at myself, looking at the wall. And then I hear a voice right next to me saying, you're not your body. And, it wasn't until Cindy said that was your brother. It never even clicked to me. Of course it was my brother. He just left. He was still hanging around us. They usually do. But it still never clicked with me. I didn't really even think about it until that point. But it changed my perspective. And then actually I would do things on purpose in order to induce the out-of-body state even as a little kid. As we lived in this creepy house, and I had a closet within a closet. And I would go in the closet, and don't tell my mom, well, she's on the 5D right now, but don't tell her I used to light a candle in there. And kids, don't light candles in your closet. Don't do that. But I would meditate on the candle as like a 7 and 8 year old kid in a closet within a closet. Why would I do that? Well, in retrospect, it's because I've had many lives as basically a monk living in a cave. And it's been done often with, my soul has done that often in order to constantly reground myself after a life like this, where, you're out there trying to be changed, and then you have to recenter and regroup yourself, build that connection of who am I really, and what is my bigger purpose in the scheme of things as a soul, as an individual part of source. What is my bigger purpose? And it's ultimately to guide and teach and help and heal. And so That's why I was drawn to meditating in closets as a little kid. What a weird little kid. Yeah, absolutely. But, it's not weird, and it's not even really unusual to have out of bodies. So here you see, if you can make it out, this is a soldier. And it looks like he's grabbing his solar plexus, abdomen. Maybe he's been shot. Maybe he's in a death throw. Yeah. What can keep you from ascending? What can cause you to actually get lost for a period of time? War. This is why they're pulling this out now. And the guides have said the Dark Age always ends with a big global war.
Mm-hmm. It's something that's so very, very unfortunate. And going back to being a child, and so many have those abilities as children, and you just naturally do these things because you're still close enough to the veil. You're pulling in old information and simply acting on it. And mine was, I could see other people, even other animals on the farm that nobody else could see. But I mean, to me, it was just so common. I didn't even bother asking about them because I just assumed everybody else could see them too. And looking back, having that understanding that I simply couldn't tell the difference between what's coming in through the pineal gland and what's coming in through the two eyes. To me, it was all one and the same, and still is. Now that I understand, I have that ability to tell those two apart. But I went through a time in my life where, well, life happens, trauma happens, and you just put all that stuff down because you have to attend to other things. And it wasn't until my daughter came skipping out of her classroom and she says, Mommy, my friends have sparks coming out of their head. And I'm like, oh God, she can see. She's going to need some answers. She's going to need some help. So I took the time to clean up my soul, clean up my body, and clean out a lot of the junk so that I could see again, and I could be a point of information for her when she had questions, because boy, I had a lot of questions. I had no answers, and I had no one to tell me anything any different. And it's because of that childlike state that we're in. Sometimes we just act on things and we don't even know why. But wouldn't it be nice? And it is nice. Our star children now are coming in with these abilities, and parents are knowing more and more what's going on and how to guide them. And then we have another aspect of things where our star children are being guided in a direction that's they're being locked into yet another belief system. And you can see how powerful that belief system is. It lasts beyond death. I mean, if we have this belief and understanding that we're going to go somewhere bad because we've sinned, well, that's going to stick with you after death, unfortunately. And they know that, the controllers know and understand these things, and they tend to do a lot throughout one's lifetime to make sure the belief systems are pounded in really deep. And then if one believes differently other than their indoctrinated belief system, well, they get angry and they lash out, and they're full of a lot of fear. And this creates fear, creates anger, creates loosh, creates entities, creates attachments, and you can see how it snowballs.
Yeah, and I think about all the people that would necessarily, and when we look back through history and we see how things are so distorted, it's so distorted. And, again, they work through division. Onward, Christian soldiers. Yeah. Never think to question why, right? They never think to question why. They just trust. They just go along with whatever they're told. And whether it's Christian or Muslim, or we see conflict in different sects of all different belief systems. It's so deeply pervasive. When we even look into Buddhism, you see division and dogma. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. It's every part of the globe. It's all part of the control matrix. So this one individual I wanted to talk about he was taking part in the Korean War. He was drafted and, went to fight in Korea and was part of that big horrible mess. And again, the Korean War has never truly stopped. And I'm bringing this up too because we were talking today about the fact that 800,000 Korean soldiers, potential Korean soldiers, have volunteered, according to some sources, to take part in the Ukrainian situation. And, this is all of the conditioning of humanity to fight amongst itself. Truly, if you are a Christian soldier, your weapon is love. And so obviously, blessed are the peacemakers. Well, yeah, I mean, it's all right there, but the contradictions. Nobody, unfortunately, the mass of what we would really truly classify as the sleeping zombies in the zombie apocalypse. And the apocalypse is the unveiling, and the zombies are the ones that are caught up in the system that don't realize that they're being manipulated. We need to wake the zombies up because they don't even understand that they're zombies. They don't understand what's really going on. This conflict was, in some ways, it was perhaps a foreshadowing of what we're going to be facing now. And, it was a case of UN troops, U.S. led for the most part, but other nations were involved as well. You might remember MacArthur, and again, this is all part of the division, the red threat, the communist threat, and again, these are all labels. These are all labels that are useful tools. And if you go back to that Albert Pike quote, which has been a while since we quoted Albert, and Albert we've been able to make contact with as well. That's the thing. You can't make contact. Can you imagine if you could go and, make contact with these historical figures and ask them what they meant? Hey, Nostradamus, what did you mean here? Again, and we have been able to make contact with many of these, and you guys will too. I mean, many of you guys out here are really gifted. I mean, we have some amazing sisters and brothers out there in this family that have incredible gifts and are going to be just amazing powers and forces in reshaping things once we get through the bigger part of the chaotic period, which is right now in front of us. But MacArthur was chasing the North Koreans all the way up towards the Chinese border, and it looked like the war was going to be over. As you see here, North Korean troops pinned against the Chinese border. MacArthur wants victory, expand war into China, even talked about use of certain weapons. Truman wanted a limited war, limiting war to Korea and conventional weapons. Against Truman's orders, MacArthur bombs bridges. And the flood came. The flood came. Again, limited war is very useful to the MIC. The military-industrial complex makes so much profit off of nonstop limited wars everywhere, again. And what it does is it creates all sorts of conditions. It gives us migrants, immigrants. Yeah, I mean, it forces people to look to live elsewhere. I mean, of course, when your house just got blown up, we got to hit the road. Where are we going to go? This is going to be happening in Florida. This is going to be happening in other locations across the U.S. as well when this hits here. Now, I'll share with you, Cindy doesn't see it. I've seen it clearly. I've had visions going back to the 80s of this multiple times. It just seems like every few years I would get more visions about this time frame. I don't think it's going to be a massive, long, drawn-out thing, so to speak, as far as the actual declaration, even if they declare it or not. Although the war that humanity's fighting is going to go on much longer. That is a different type of battle that we're talking about. But as far as this period in which, the U.S. and NATO is no longer being used as the police force, the military force of the power structure on this planet, that change is coming, and I think it's going to be very quick and very sudden. I do think that that's going to be the case. But what happened was, again, China started flooding in troops. They thought there was 30,000 Chinese troops helping the North Koreans. There was over 300,000, and they were prepared to send in millions. And so what it did was, it was very, very shocking to the U.S. troops, as the U.S. and UN forces, they crossed the 38th parallel, and then all of a sudden this wave of humanity just came piling through in such vast numbers. And what you have to realize too is China's civil war lasted a long time. They were invaded by Japan. That lasted a long time. And, they also had their own civil war, which eventually ended up with the nationalists going to Taiwan and the communists winning. Russia as well. Russia had been through, decades of unrest. And, what happened in both Russia and China was so many people just disappeared off the face of the earth, never to be seen again during these times. And they were great purges. Millions, tens of millions of people just disappeared in these war times. Tens of millions of people disappeared, never to be found again, never to be, really, in many cases, a lot of family members don't know whatever happened to them. Where'd they go? They were here, they're gone. This is part of what happens during wartime. And this is what we have to realize with the bigger picture. And all this is done to create terror for the soul. And there's nothing more terrifying. I mean, there's very few things more terrifying than being a soldier out there and all of a sudden seeing so many enemy forces that it's literally overwhelming, flooding you, getting behind you. And so the family member, found themselves basically wounded from an explosion, shot at shrapnel, left for dead because his buddies were either dead or they cleared out. And all of a sudden, he was surrounded by enemy troops. He buried himself under straw and leaves, and just basically hoped that they wouldn't find him. And they didn't find him, even though they were, basically bayoneting everything that might hide somebody. He did survive. He did recoup, but it tormented him, and it left him having nightmares the rest of his life. It left him ending up going and having one, psychologist after another who put him on lithium, who put him on, all sorts of different meds, which caused their own problems. And the bottom line is he died when he was just in his early 50s. And cancer, cancer is, again, all about grief and emotions that we can't process. And so, this is another wartime victim, even though he didn't die here, and he died like 35 years later. It was a young 20-year-old kid, actually 19-year-old kid that saw this. And having to shoot other people damages your soul. It does damage your soul. These are all choices that we have to face. But soldiers in battle that are forced to kill other people, it damages your soul. It really, really does.
And it can go on from one lifetime to the next, too. If one incarnates before they have completely processed all of that information and somehow dealt with it, it can carry on into the next. And we do know family members that at times they really, truly have battles at night still, and it's very, very difficult for them, and they might lose a lot of sleep, and there are things that can be done about that. But what if you just don't know? What if you're in a belief system that you're in and you don't know that anything can be done? You're probably going to go to a place to get something written on a piece of paper to help you deal with it, and you take that thing and it's not solving or resolving anything. It's just backing up the energy. It's just putting a plug in things. And then that energy, instead of being processed through, it's backing up like a dam. And that can really, really, really make you sick, and I kind of wanted to bounce back a little bit to the belief system aspect of everything, and maybe even provide a little bit of a solution, because when we point out problems, I like to try to point out a solution so we have a good focus. And what if the world were in a state so everybody has their respected belief system, whatever that is, and if you hear something that's against your belief system, what if you simply just got curious? What if you got curious instead of, kind of damning that person in the back of your mind and thinking, well, they're just going to burn in hell and I feel sorry for them because they've done this and this. What if you just sat down and really talked to that person, and said, well, what do you believe? Who do you believe? Why do you believe? I mean, wouldn't that bring so much more expansion? And I think we're getting to that point now. We are coming out of a place where we've had a lot of contraction, which is a lot of fear, angst, worry, and we're moving into that expansion. So trying to understand each other more and finding that compassion, I think, is where we need to be. And if you do see someone struggling, have compassion for them, because that might allow them to have compassion for themselves, because it is no joke. This PTSD, this stuff where people are screwed up in war, it is such a horrible battle. I mean, it's really a battle on many different levels, and it makes me sad. And I just like to try to help people where they're at, wherever they can, to help them step up and out of that really dark space.
Absolutely. So, that individual, I asked Cindy, where do you see him? And this was several years ago. And he was still lost. He died in 86. And, we were talking about probably 2020, 2021. So 35 years, he was basically lost in confusion. The soul was in confusion. And I think this might be where you get some of the thoughts of like a purgatory type place or something like that. I mean, it's all a mental plane of existence. This is the thing. It's all a mental plane of existence. And it takes time, per se. Our time passes. Over there, time is different when we're in the astral. But 3D, 4D are so intertwined too. Again, this is where the majority of people spend a big chunk. Well, in the big scheme of things, again, it's two sides to the same coin, so to speak, the 3D, 4D. And here he is, he was 35 years after passing on, still in that shadowy kind of realm of confusion. And, this is a little bit of what we see here. Spanish misrule, right? Cuba. I mean, the BS nonstop selling the public on one war after another. The duty of the hour to save her not only from Spain, but from a worse fate. Yeah, most people don't even really realize the Spanish-American War. I mean, how many of you out there know about the Spanish-American War, can say anything about it? It's not one of the ones that gets a lot of publicity, but still lives were lost there. And, I did have family members that were there as well. And, yet again, another war that people get sold on. But what does it do? It just damages the soul. That's all it does. Buffalo soldiers, yeah. It just damages the soul. One war after another, from these arbitrary boundaries, these arbitrary rulers. Again, when we look to the kings and the queens in those eras, and really today's modern top-level politicians are still coming from the same bloodlines. It's all BS. It's all about trapping souls so they can be useful and used. As you see, again, look at this from Fine Art America, the Cuban melodrama. as you see, again, the noble hero, the U.S. saving Cuba from bad Spain. It's all sales. It's all sales that's used to trap souls. And we could go back to the Battle of Gettysburg and brother fighting brother, cousins fighting each other, killing each other for the politicians. Again, the politicians, the kings and queens, God and country, it's all a load of crap. It's nothing other than just trying to lower our frequency and vibration and keep us trapped with demonic forces. And yet people believe it. They're so gullible, they go along with it. They really think they're wearing the white hat. Well, the people on the other side think you're wearing the black hat. Wake up. I know, I'm not speaking to you guys because you get it. But again, if we're still waiting for some rich politician to save us, man, no, you're not getting it.
No, they're going to do what they need to do to keep themselves in some type of power. And even if they have to paint a more acceptable picture of things, well, that's what they'll do. And do they have any substance behind that painting that they're making? No. The only substance they have behind it is the fact that they have a goal to make, and they're going to say and do anything that they need to say and do, whether that be lies, whether that be some form of twisted truths. It's just their beings that really... That's just their path. That's just their path. And so many people start to catch on and they realize, well, that might be their path, but this isn't my path. I want to choose a path of compassion, love, understanding. And when it comes to helping people, I want to help people, not in a selfish way, but in a true way, in a way that's so meaningful, that's super, super deep and is in the heart. And that's where so many of us are, but we have been led astray through certain untruths, which is really unfortunate.
Absolutely. So I've been to Gettysburg, and one of the things, and I've been to Charleston. Charleston's one of my favorite cities. It is probably my favorite city in the whole U.S., honestly. And I could feel the ghosts there. I could see and sense the ghosts there often. And so much of them are trapped by war. They're trapped by war and traumatic events. And they still are trapped. I mean, there's souls still on the Gettysburg battlefield. This is gosh, what's this, 160 years later almost? They're still trapped. They haven't cleared out their trauma. And now we're, here on the beginning of WW3, or if you want to call it WW4 and say WW3 was, whatever, you get it. It's a big global conflict that's about to embroil everybody again. This is their entire purpose. These conflicts, yes, they are about money, profits, maintaining the control system, but really what they're trying to do is sink their hooks into your soul and anchor you down where they can keep using you. Cindy was getting a message about the whales, and I just was going to end on touching this. We might view that, whales are interesting creatures, they're so enormous, and we might say, well, dolphins and whales seem to be very smart, and in some ways, absolutely, they're actually way more advanced than we are. We don't really, we think of ourselves as the pinnacle, but, what other species do you see waging atrocities on each other like we do?
I know, and yes, back to this message from the whales that I'm so glad I get to deliver. We do look at them as beings of the sea, and we might think that we are superior in some way. But if you look at things and understand that the globe has a certain frequency to it, guess who helps hold that frequency? Guess who helps put that information out there so that healing can ensue? These whales are beings that came here that are a part of Earth, that are actually helping her heal and hold her frequency. And look what they are doing to our oceans. Look what they are doing to these places where these beings can exist and actually call and put out that frequency to bring about certain amounts of healing. And these beautiful angelic beings are very much under attack. So anyone who feels so inclined to send them your own healing energy, please do, because they definitely need help. And without them, it's not good news for us, that's for sure, because they do hold like 70% of the whole healing that the world is doing is because of them. It is their frequency. They are made from Earth, of Earth, for us, for Earth, and they're really under attack. They're under attack in a very unfortunate, vicious, transformative way. And we can all definitely push back because we are co-creators. It's just we have to do this so-called battle on a different density. It's not going to work in the 3D density. That's what they're trying to control and maintain control of. But we can rise above that. We can go through higher self. We can go above this density and use our energy. And we can even build up our own personal energy and become very heavy hitters on a different density. And we really need to focus on that.
I just want to say something in regards to this, and this doesn't feel like it comes from me. If you were a higher level being, a higher vibrational frequency being that didn't want to interfere with evolution on a planet, and yet were called in some way, shape, or form to hold a certain frequency, it would make very much sense to incarnate as something like a whale. Because again, they're not going to pick up guns. They're not going to do anything like that. No, they're just trying to keep the original intention together and to help maintain peace. When they're not here, then Mother Earth is going to have a harder time restraining herself from the changes. The Earth changes will be amplified. The powers that be understand this.
Right. So please do send them the love that you have. Send them the energy that you have. Send them your positive intentions, because they're calling out for help now. And I picked this up, when was it? About 3 to 4 nights ago. So please focus on that. Whoever you are, I have my own shamanic tools that I'm going to be doing my own work with. And again, thank you, Mama Jan, for sending me these things, because they're going to be put to absolute good use.
So as always, guys, we love you. We appreciate you. Thank you for sharing your comments and your experiences. And thank you for trying to get these videos out to expose more people to the light that's out there and the unifying power that's out there underlying everything. We will rise through these times. Again, not all souls are going to ascend. Many will choose to stay on, the 3D, 4D spectrum, and in fact, it might be the vast majority. But we are speaking, to you who desire something new, desire to be outside of the dark system that's been enshrouding this planet. Because again, there are 2 paths you can choose if we're talking the bigger scheme of things. And as Led Zeppelin said, there's still time to change the road you're on. You just got to know and understand that road that you're on.
Source bless and namaste.
Namaste.